Israel has proved for a whole year that they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yep.
I mean, nobody has imagined that what happened in Gaza, what happened on daily day in the West Bank. It could be, we can have a podcast a year from now talking about, oh my God, do you see what happened in Syria? Have you imagined?
There's multiple Americans have now been killed. They had an American citizen from Michigan killed in Lebanon. And the reaction of the State Department, I don't know if you saw, they said, well, he's not an American, he's a permanent resident.
This illusion of free speech is not. Yes, you are allowed to say what you want, but you will have pro-Israel billionaires going out of their way to destroy your career in the college if you speak up.
I do see so much hope in the midst of the despair from the generational change, for example, from the fact that there are people like you and me and others who have platforms.
Yeah, I appreciate you still having hope to do it.
Have you given up hope?
No, I'm not giving up. I'm from a very, very, very deep point of desperation.
You said that comedy is about tension and relief for the crowd that listens
Yes.
to the gag. What about for you? Is it a relief for you?
Oh yes, of course, because when they laugh, that's paying for my therapy.
I'm Mehdi Hasan,
I'm Bassem Youssef.
and we are not kidding, Bassem.
We're not.
Welcome back to show. We're not. We're never kidding.
We're never kidding.
It's been a couple of months, my friend. What have you been up to?
I know I've been traveling like crazy. I've been having shows in Chicago, Minneapolis. Actually, one of them was in Ohio, but it was not Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
It
He's
was
putting a disclaimer.
Wait. It was in Northfield, right? And the thing is, it's like an MGM studio, MGM casino. So you have to understand, like most of the people that come to me, like, you know, like they're Muslims, Pakistanis, Indian, and of course they're like Arab Christians, but a lot of them are like, you know, people who haven't been to a comedy show to find themselves attending a comedy show for Bassem Youssef in a gambling casino.
Okay.
And I went out and I said, all of those people, it's like, guys, this is the most haram thing that you have ever done in your life. This is your most haram night ever.
And you meant the casino, not coming to see you.
I think for many people, I am haram in myself. I am the impersonification of haram. But
So why not do it at a casino?
And I taped my show, my comedy show in the Wiltern, Los Angeles. And I've been seeing you very busy. I'm seeing you going on Piers Morgan. That's like a beautiful gaslighting session. And I saw you picking up fights on Twitter. What's going on with you?
Too many fights. That's why I came to talk to
Why?
you.
Why?
You, I don't have to fight.
Why?
with.
But like
never
we
fight.
need to. This has to be a kind of a therapy session.
Therapy session.
Yes.
I think it's because we're very close to the election. We're going to talk about the election. I think the election has made everyone go crazy. I want the election to be done. I want to move on with our
See how we
lives.
switched just to like go into the. I
No.
want to talk, dude. I want to see the person behind me.
You want me to lie down?
Come on.
Should we get a
Come
couch?
on.
There's no
No,
couch.
no, no,
Actually,
no, no,
we must establish first where we are.
Yes.
We are
yes.
in the Elgin and Winter Gardens Theatre in Toronto, Canada. You and I, we don't have enough time to see each other in the United States of America.
Yes.
So we managed to be in Toronto at the same time for different events. But I'm here. You are performing in a few minutes. Shortly after we finish chatting,
Yes.
you're going on stage for the Beast Tour.
Yes,
The Middle Beast Tour.
The Middle Beast Tour. We sold out 5 shows in 2 days, and the reason we couldn't go to a third day that it's Sunday and it's Canadian Thanksgiving,
Yes.
whatever the hell that means.
I don't know what that means. I barely can understand American Thanksgiving.
I have no
Someone
idea.
will have to message us in the comments and let us know what is Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yes, and so it's been cool, and I'm so glad that you guys are here. Mehdi attended my show in Washington, and I'm glad that you're here. We're gonna do this podcast, talk about stuff, and then we go have some laughs.
We can have some laughs now as well, although the world
I
is
don't know
pretty
with you,
depressing.
Mehdi. I don't know. You're
No,
very
it's not my
You're a
fault.
very depressing person. Now.
I'm depressing because the world is
Yes,
depressing,
but
and I channel the world at you,
The
Bas.
difference between me and you that I can try to find the satire. You always just like go deep into
Why
depression.
the hell do you think I set up a show called We're Not Kidding? Because
I-
I realize that about myself.
But
and I need people like yourself.
It's more about
and Rob
your
Delaney
depression
and others. I need okay. Let's talk about this depressing world. You can satirize the craziness in the Middle East. Bassem, since we launched the show, you and I have been talking about the craziness in the Middle East, specifically Gaza. We talked about red heifers. We've talked about Netanyahu in other contexts. We've talked about crazy people in the region. Here we are, a year after October 7th, 6 months into you and I having these chats, and we're not talking about Gaza now. We're talking about Lebanon. What is happening to Lebanon is insane. I don't think anyone imagined, I think the people of Lebanon imagined that we would be in this situation where, having pounded Gaza, genocided Gaza, we're now in Lebanon with 1 million people displaced. A beautiful country. I'm assuming I haven't been for many years to Lebanon. Have you been to Lebanon recently?
Yes, I've been in Lebanon. Last time I was in Lebanon 3 years ago. So, and I've always had friends there. I've visited. I've been on their TV many times. But the thing is, I don't see the surprise.
Okay.
I don't see the astonishment. I mean, Israel has proved for a whole year that they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yep.
I mean, nobody has imagined that what happened in Gaza, what happened on daily day in the West Bank, what happens in southern Lebanon, what happens in Lebanon. I mean, like, it could be we can have a podcast a year from now talking about, oh my God, do you see what happened in Syria? Have you imagined? I mean, they are telling us in every step of the way, we want a Jewish state in Lebanon and in Jordan and in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And it's not him. Because the Western media will try to frame this as, oh, he's just like one of the radicals, fringe extremist. They've been telling you, and I've been doing it to you, and they will always find the Western media finding an excuse. But they're terrorism. But
it's Hezbollah. After hearing about Hamas, it's now Hezbollah.
And
all the same stuff.
I'm starting to believe it. Maybe it is. I mean, maybe we should give Israel this kind of carte blanche to do whatever they want, because like
they have it.
They have. I mean, and it doesn't matter.
It's the same, but it's so lazy. It's the same playbook. It's they're hiding under buildings. There's Hezbollah, human shields. They put rockets in apartments. This is the same narrative.
It's not lazy if it's working.
That's true.
And also the fact that Netanyahu can go on stage and in the UN say, like, every kitchen have a rocket launcher. I mean, and people just don't even stop about that. It is useless. It's a charade. It's a charade. It's just like, yes, we have free speech. You can come on our shows and you can bark all you want and talk about the humans being killed. And we are going to pretend that we are listening to you, and we're just going to do that. We are the free world. We're allowing you to say exactly. You're free to say what you want, but
we're free to do what we want.
Kill what you want, which is exactly what the regimes in the Middle East has always doing. Yes, you're free to say what you want, not in our presence, and we're free to say and do and what you want. So really, America is not that very different.
Well, Israel is a very Middle Eastern regime, then.
No, but it's Israel could have never done that without America.
Of course.
And I think whatever you want to talk about, the American elections, the pagers, the Hezbollah, the Lebanon, the Gaza, we cannot really pretend that this is just happening and America is not on that.
Agreed.
And that they're talking about Iran proxies.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about American proxy.
Yes.
We're not talking about the Western, and as if Europeans are not to be blamed because they have been helping Israel with intelligence. They've been helping. So I don't know that.
Let's just hold on. Before we generalize about Europeans, can we take a pause for the Irish? Last time we spoke, you and I, you had been to Ireland. You said, I think you compared, you said Irish with the Palestinians of Europe.
I had the craziest energy in my shows in Ireland. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. One of the best ones I've ever had.
We're speaking right now, more news is coming out about Irish peacekeepers being injured, Irish peacekeepers being attacked. This is part of the UNIFIL, a UN contingent of Irish peacekeepers in southern Lebanon who have been attacked by an Israeli tank, which turns up, targets them. These Irish government has said this is outrageous. The EU has said it's outrageous, but they're doing it.
Doesn't matter. I mean, they just bombed the French oil refinery just because Macron said, I'm not going to give you weapons anymore. So it's just like, basically, it's a bulldog that America is setting free on the region. And it just...
I mean, they must have taken some pleasure in targeting the Irish, because that is one country in Europe that has stood up to them.
Yeah. And the French. And and tomorrow it's the Americans. It's not like... I want to actually ask you about something, because one of the narrative, there's always like, there is American blood on Hezbollah and Iran, right? And they always like to quote the 241 soldiers that were killed in the embassy, right?
The Marine barracks.
The Marine barracks, right? But here's my question. I'm sure that you're aware of that book, By Way of Deception, by Victor Ostrovsky.
I'm not.
Okay, so Victor Ostrovsky, he was an ex-Mossad, and his book was published in 1991. And he was a Mossad officer, and he talks very, very, very openly about how Israel had absolute information about the Mercedes truck that drove into the Marine Corps. And it did not relate to the Americans. And the head of the Mossad, Shin Bet, at the time, he said, like, they are a big country and shouldn't have involved themselves in what they shouldn't be. And this book, there was a gag order by the Israeli government on it not to be released in 1991. Now, here's the thing. If you go to Wikipedia, you will see a very, very, very heavily edited pages about Viktor Ostrovsky being deranged, never been in the Mossad, never been. And of course, we have videos for Naftali Bennett when he was working with the Wikipedia editors in Israel saying that we want to equate Wikipedia to be as fair and as Zionist as possible.
Moetzet Yesha, in conjunction with My Israel, has arranged an instruction day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
Well, Wikipedia has become a ground for all sorts of political battles, including Middle East battles.
I'm just saying that the people in the West are very, very, very very interested in talking about the blood of American soldiers, but they never talk about the blood of American soldiers on Israeli hands. Whether it was
USS Liberty is a very famous example.
USS Liberty,
in the 1967
whether
war.
the Lavon affair that happened in Egypt in 1954. I'm sure that you're aware of it, where Israel has denied it for 51 years and then sent them certificate appreciation.
We don't need to go back to the 50s or 60s, Bassem. They're killing Americans in the West Bank.
Yeah.
They killed an American Turkish
No, but they're
citizen in the West
Palestinians, they
Bank.
don't count.
Well, this is a Turkish American. It's even less, yeah.
They don't count.
They don't count. Well, Rachel Corrie was a white American woman.
She's
lefty peace.
She's a useful fool.
Yeah,
as Ben Shapiro would say.
I mean, there's multiple Americans have now been killed. They had an American citizen from Michigan killed in Lebanon. And the reaction of the State Department, I don't know if you saw, they said, well, he's not an American, he's a permanent resident, which A, wasn't true, he was a citizen, and B, even if he was a permanent resident, is that okay for our permanent residents? I remember I was getting very angry at Saudi Arabia for killing Jamal Khashoggi, who was an American citizen, but he was a permanent resident, he was a resident in Virginia. So yeah, you're right, we don't talk enough about that. It's interesting you brought up Lebanon 83 and 82 in the Marine barracks. For me, Lebanon in the early 80s is an absolute analogy. And you said you saw me go on Piers Morgan. One of the points I made on Piers Morgan was about the 1982 war, which created Hezbollah. But what's interesting is Ronald Reagan was president in the early 80s, Bassem. Ronald, hero of the conservatives, most patriotic president, Rambo movies. Ronald Reagan pulled out of Lebanon and said, we're out of here. This is not our war when people died. There was a lot of pressure for him to stay. He said, we're leaving. See you later. Not only did he leave, when Begin was Israeli prime minister bombing Beirut, he rang him and said, Menachem, this is a Holocaust, H-word. He said, this is a Holocaust. Can you imagine an American leader today accusing Netanyahu of a Holocaust? It would be the biggest, people would lose their minds. He rang him up, he said, it was a Holocaust, you need to stop this. And in 20 minutes, the Prime Minister of Israel stopped the bombing of Beirut. Joe Biden, and this was one of the great stains on his record forever, refused to do that for a year.
So what happened? What changed? I mean, what happened since 1980s to now?
It's a great question.
And I think it is the cancerous growth of AIPAC and the other
certainly views that were more mainstream in the early 80s, 70s, 60s, I think are now become taboo. Things that Ronald Reagan could say, Joe Biden can't say.
Yeah.
And it's a weird disconnect because actually the public and young people have become more critical of Israel, but the political class has become more pro-Israel.
But it doesn't matter because those politicians don't get their campaigns funded by the public. They don't get funded by the college protesters.
Yeah.
They are not important. Their loyalty to the military, pharmaceutical, evangelical, and Israel. And the fact, if you have something like AIPAC that funds 80% of Congress, what does that tell you? It tells you that our American government is not for the American people. And this is why I have maybe a disagreement with your position.
Okay, what's my position?
And I don't want to be assuming, but I know that you got a lot of heat for supporting Harris, or at least wanting to
stop Trump. My position is stop Trump.
Stop Trump, and
who's a big character in your show today, I know.
And for me, like when people tell me Harris or Biden, I said Harris or Trump. At the beginning, I said I want Biden to lose, and
discussed it earlier.
And then I say it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And I'm really, I came to America a few years ago and I became a citizen in 2019. And the first thing I did, they gave me this form to register as a voter. And I was very excited. I voted in the local elections in my city. I voted the congressman. And then I say it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. And I understand why people were disenfranchised
Yeah.
in the Middle East, because they know that my vote doesn't matter, your vote doesn't matter, because our tax money is being given to finance a war that we didn't vote for,
Yeah.
because those politicians are being funded by people we didn't approve. You have Republicans and Democrats fighting tooth and nail on abortion, gun rights, climate change,
But not on this
education,
issue.
healthcare, but 100 to 0.
Did you ever see the clip of Nancy Pelosi, where I think we can play it? She says, she's with Chuck Schumer, and she says, if Congress burned to the ground, the only one issue we'd still agree on is Israel. Her words.
I have said to people when they ask me, if this Capitol crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid, and I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel.
So if that is the truth, so we need to really reconsider and recalibrate the country that we're living in. This illusion of free speech is not. When, yes, you are allowed to say what you want, but you will have pro-Israel billionaires going out of their way to destroy your career in the college if you speak up.
Bill Ackman.
Yeah.
And now Elon Musk has joined.
Yeah. So the thing is, all of this thing of like, this is a charade.
Did you see what, I got to bring this up because you just mentioned it. Just before I came here, I saw Bill Ackman went after the Weather Channel. I don't know if you saw this. So the Weather Channel had an ad on the subway of a young Arab woman wearing a kufiya. And he said, this is anti-Semitic. And the Weather Channel did a groveling apology on Twitter saying, we're very sorry. We didn't mean to be anti-Semitic or offensive. So now just expressing your Arabness or your Palestinianness through dress in the land of free speech is deemed anti-Semitic. And you have billionaires pressuring private corporations to come out and give apologies on this.
And you will have that being written in the law, the anti-Semitic bill that didn't pass the Senate, but it didn't pass today. It might pass tomorrow. It may be criticizing Israel will be anti-Semitic.
So let me push
Maybe
back.
talking about
So let me
AIPAC.
push back on you 1 second here.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I'm cynical. I'm not as cynical as you. I'll tell you why. There are 100 members of Congress who have called for a ceasefire in Gaza. 100, I think 75 to 100, ballpark. How many of them are Republicans?
I don't think anyone.
0.
Yeah.
So I don't think so there are actually people still trying to do some good. We can argue how much good that is. There's gradations. What I would say is, I don't want to end up as a business, this is my personal view, where we're so nihilistic, where we say, plague on all of them, they're all bad, stay at home, don't bother to be politically engaged. When actually I look at Jamal Bowman and Cory Bush, $23 million AIPAC spent to defeat these 2 members of Congress in Missouri and New York, right? 2 black Christians, they're not Arabs, they're not Muslims, basically sacrificed their political careers to stand up for the people of Gaza in this historic year. They were on the right side of history. AIPAC and others helped take them down. I think people like that deserve our support. I don't think we should just say, plague on all your houses. Do you disagree?
No. Listen, what you're doing, I know that you have a great point in doing it. I'm not disagreeing with you as like I'm opposing your opinion.
Well, forget my opinion. I'm just saying, are you saying plague on everyone?
No. I'm just saying that maybe I don't have your tenacity and your perseverance in order to, maybe because I come from a very long history of being disenfranchised by democracy. And being gaslit. And I come here, it's like, I found it, and then maybe I don't find it in me anymore.
You disappointed?
Yes. So, yeah, maybe you have more, like, actually, I condone you. Is that the word? Like, I appreciate you.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you still having hope to do it. Maybe I'm talking from a...
Have you given up hope?
No, I'm not giving up. I'm from a very, very, very deep point of desperation. And I don't know, how can you counteract the humongous effect of billionaires who are putting billions in order to buy politicians, to buy media outlets? You have Elon Musk. And you see our post on social media being
I'm not disagreeing with your analysis. I'm with you on the analysis.
I'm not talking. Listen, it's not like a who's right or who's wrong.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm speaking to you from 100%. A very emotional point of
Same.
view, that I don't know how can we beat Goliath. They having people with Palestinian flag on their shirts being picked up in the streets in Germany. This could be New York tomorrow. If you have the Weather Channel apologizing for putting a picture
Yes.
of a guy with a kufiya, tomorrow you'll not be allowed to walk in
Yeah.
the streets with a kufiya.
No, that is dangerous. But I'll tell you what, though.
I'm not saying that.
I'm not disagreeing with what your
I'm
your
just-
analysis of how bad it is.
I don't know how to get out with this.
I mean, okay, so let me try and put a counter case. What about all of the positive signs we have seen over the past year of the energy, the people supporting Palestinians globally, the college protesters, the shift in the polls on ceasefire and arms embargo, politicians standing up and saying genocide on the floor of the House. What about that?
Can I give you a very dystopian outlook? None of those college people will make it to politics.
Their careers will be destroyed.
Their career will be destroyed. We have seen the deterioration of the political and the media class in the past few decades. That's why we don't have another call from Reagan. That's why we don't.
It's weird, Bassem, because we started the show with you telling me I'm a super depressing person, but you've made me more depressed than I've ever been today.
Yes. That
We
was
switched.
You see how I
We
did.
switched.
You see
We
how
did.
I got you in.
Yeah.
but no. Listen, talk.
You said therapy, right?
No,
you
no,
said to me,
no,
you said
we-
therapy earlier.
we are
Let me
talking-
flip. Okay, so let me flip it.
Okay.
You know how I don't give up hope? Mm-hmm. I have faith in God.
Jamil, that's amazing. But and I hope that faith will.
Because
work
despair is for all
No,
of
no,
us.
but-
you don't think I've despaired for the last year?
But
you know what I've been through.
Here's my thing. I am looking at a very dystopian future
I don't dispute that
where
possibility.
the social media algorithms will limit your reach
Yep.
to the same people that you're talking to, limiting any effect and any change of the status quo. And you will see the political systems being taken over more and more and more by the oligarchs and the people with money, and that will serve their agendas. And all of the people that, like, all of these dissents will be easily contained, separated, the same way that they do now in the West Bank, into little settlements being surrounded by people, and they will be put under siege with the money and the power. The career will be, and then you will be only allowed to exist in a fringe, in some sort of a digital algorithm, while the whole world around you will be falling apart, and you will be like talking to each other in an echo chamber, while tomorrow they can take country after country, they can do whatever kind of destruction they want because they have the money and the power to do so.
So what does Bassem Youssef do in that situation?
I don't know, I'm trying to laugh on stage until I die.
You're doing more than that. I love the fake modest. I'm just laughing on stage. No, you're not. You're a powerhouse. You're doing interviews. You're talking politics. Nobody expects you to be this political this year. You're getting attacked.
But I see, here's the thing. Okay, it's a game. It's a game. Look what happened October 7th. All right, I'm going to go back to October 7th for one moment in time. They went back with the big thing, decapitated babies, rape, that was enough to do the first shockwave. By the time that those lies have been exposed, already a big part of the massive amount of people have checked out.
Yes,
because no one has been following Gaza for a year. Now they're back to their NFLs. They're back to the NBAs. They're back to their Netflix. They're back to the entertainment. And then every now and then, when they check in, they will find Jake Tapper, rape. They will find BBC. Decapitated babies. Oh, it's still the same. There's no reason for me to change my initial. So the thing is, the people who have stayed, the people who have still talking, we're talking to ourselves, to a very limited amount of people, while the massive amount of people were there enough to be there for the election. You see how the Palestinian people were booed in the democratic parties. That was a reflection of the massive amount of people of the United States who took the first wave of shock and then checked out. And this is why I'm telling you, and maybe I'm talking out of despair, maybe I'm talking out of realism, but this is it.
So let me be the therapist today.
Yes.
We'll switch. I thought it was going to be the other end. At the beginning, it was a very dangerous road where I thought I was going to have to be on the couch. But you're on the couch. So let me be therapist.
Both of us are on the couch, dude.
Let's be therapist / counselor
Yes.
/ your spiritual advisor. If you take that position, and it's a very understandable position, I've felt that too. Let's just be clear. I think many of us have felt the fatalism, the despair. Things are getting worse. How can you not when you see kids being pulled from the rubble, when you're seeing now Lebanese children being killed? Of course. But isn't that what they want, the other side? They want you to despair. They want you to succumb to a fatalism. They want you to say nothing can be done. And then they win.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I refuse to let them win.
Yeah, that's cool.
Is that stupid? Am I dumb?
No. I mean,
I look at South Africa, apartheid. It's never going to end until it ended, right? Until it's done, as the phrase goes.
This time the enemy is not South Africa. It's not the.
It's social media algorithms.
No, it is some of the most immoral humans ever. That have no problem inflicting pain. I have never seen people who have absolutely no respect or regards to human life, and who would do whatever they want, having all that. The South Africa didn't have the media cover that Israel has.
That's very true.
This is what we have is a huge monster, a nuclear monster that is being protected by a bigger monster. And they are inflicting all of the pain. I mean, you take one look of the White House spokesman and how the smug on their faces and how they look at you and how they just like, they're giving you the no answer.
The racism and the dehumanization is
forget about the isms.
Yeah.
Forget about the isms. This is like an absolute domination and absolute disregard of human life. And they have people tweeting, "I stand with Israel," more than they tweeted their solidarity with the people in North Carolina for the hurricanes. It's just, they're telling you, we care about Israel more than we care about the American public, and they're still in power. And just like, my thing is like, how can they engineered this scene for everybody to see, and still people are okay with it? I don't
think people are okay with it, but as you say, there's a disconnect, right? The media and politics is not representing the people. That's part of the crisis, the breakdown in trust. You go back to the Iraq War, the financial crisis, multiple episodes where there's a huge gap between the people in power and the people on the streets. And yeah, I actually think it will end very badly, because I think that the complete disregard for public opinion is going to come and bite them on the ass.
No, and it's very complicit. I mean, the whole idea about like, I'm sorry, like if we're like going out of the, but like maybe this is because every single thing that we discuss, Lebanon, Hezbollah, American election, it has to come to this. You don't have a single late night show who talked about Israel buying politicians in front of your eyes. They were like up in arms, Russian interference, Chinese interference, and nobody.
Well,
nobody's talking about
the analogy I always give is, because people will say, "Oh, you're saying they're controlling them. That's anti-Semitic. Jews own Congress." That's not what we're saying.
I didn't say Jews.
Exactly.
I said AIPAC, and I said Israel.
And actually, the analogy I always give is the NRA. Right? We're happy to talk about the NRA buying and paying for. The language we use is very interesting.
Yeah.
Bought and paid for by the NRA. Democrats will say that all the time about Republicans. We're very happy to talk about the gun lobby. We're very happy to identify the money. We're very happy to look at the impact. We can point, we say, look, they paid these politicians, and these politicians voted against this common sense bill that the public supports, universal background checks. We're happy to do that with the gun lobby, but we're not happy to do it in the case of the Middle East. And it's not just, of course, the Israel lobby. There's a lot of Gulf countries spending a lot of money on lobby.
They cannot come close.
I'm not saying that, but there are a lot of lobbies in DC that are spending a lot of money.
And all of them.
Bassem, hold on.
Wait.
The Saudi lobby is a pretty powerful lobby in DC. They just rehabilitated the entire country after Khashoggi. Let's be real.
How they are registered? Are they registered as a foreign lobby?
Well, that's a good question.
Yes, you see, that's the difference. Yes, of course there are lobbies. I'm sure there's a Chinese lobby. I'm sure there's a Qatari and a Saudi and Emirates. There are all kinds of lobbies, but all of them are registered as foreign lobbies. Not the AIPAC is not registered.
And we should just add again here, because people get tagged us. Senator William Fulbright, who was one of the most famous American senators of the 20th century, chaired the Foreign Relations Committee. All the scholarships that people take are named after him, the Fulbright Scholarship. He actually famously came out, if memory serves me correctly, and said, should AIPAC be registered as a foreign agent? And he got attacked heavily for suggesting that, and no one's brought that up.
And Kennedy ordered them to register as that. Yeah.
It goes back to what you talked about. The spectrum has moved greatly from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But again, to go back to what you said, I do see so much hope in the midst of the despair from the generational change, for example, from the fact that there are people like you and me and others who have platforms within the media. You're someone who goes on Amanpour, you go on Piers Morgan, you're invited to the Economist Summit. I get it. It's within within constraints. I'm well aware of that.
What will happen if tomorrow they issued the anti-Semitic bill was passed, and now everything that we say right now becomes illegal under law?
Well, that's not what the bill does. But yes, it does. It does. Definitely, that's not what it does. But it does. But yes, it makes it much harder. And they want to push a definition of anti-Semitism that includes criticism of Israel. We know that. To the point where, as I said earlier, the Weather Channel is anti-Semitic for having a person in a kufiya. There's a real problem of anti-Semitism in America, especially on the far right. People don't want to hear about that. It's ironically the people who are pro-Israel who are some of the most anti-Semitic people. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And I don't think that even come close to the crimes that happens against pro-Palestinian people.
Right now, 100%. I said this.
I don't
know if you saw.
I
but
don't know how many Jewish people lost their jobs for being pro-Israel in America. So the whole idea of like putting this as kind of like a disclaimer at the beginning, no, we have to. This is one of the things. This is how they want to frame the conversation. We have to make these moral checkpoints as we go on.
I said in a recent speech that I gave in DC that the first and worst victims of cancel culture have always been pro-Palestinian people. That's the irony. The people who shout about cancel culture, they're cancelled on campus, they're cancelled in workplaces, they're cancelled in Congress. History will remember the only person censured in Congress after October 7th was not Lindsey Graham calling for Gaza to be flattened, not Tom Cotton saying bounce rubble, but Rashida Tlaib calling for freedom and equality between the river and the sea. She was censured, the only Palestinian American in Congress. I think history will remember that. Bassem, I've got to ask you then, if you were in this position of demoralization, disappointment, despair, you're also a full-time comedian. How does that work?
We know when they say comedy comes from pain. This is like some nonsense.
Is it?
No, actually, it does. It actually it helps. Sometimes being so cynical about stuff, and you go, people actually laugh out of pain. Sometimes, you know, in comedy there's something called tension and release, and the biggest the tension, the biggest the release. And that's why when you see comedians go into very serious monologue and end it with a huge punchline, it's the laughter is always the biggest, because it's like a rubber band that you pull it to the end and then it releases with a huge laughter. So it makes me sometimes it helps with material, but sometimes it's very painful because you have to write jokes while you are actually on a personal level in real life very disenfranchised of their disappointment of what's happening. So
is that what you found this year since October 7th?
Yes. I mean, like I'm been very grateful with all of the support and stuff, but like deep inside of me, it's like I don't know. Are we, especially when you go to here in Canada, for example, you know, when you whatever event you talk about, like how the First Nation we have to give grace to the and some states
respect to the land.
Yeah, respect to the land and the indigenous people, and so like, will they have similar trips to the West Bank after their Palestinians are gone? This is, and then we'll have them, because our memories to have it's very painful. It's very painful because I see the empty gestures and the hypocrisy.
Well, you know what they say about the US, right? The United States has a Holocaust Memorial Museum in DC, which is a very powerful place. I've been there. It's heartbreaking. But it's interesting that they don't have a memorial for their own Holocaust, their own genocide against the Native Americans, which is a great irony in the US. But I think the key here is, as you said, it is the hypocrisy of respecting things in the past with the indigenous rights, but not in the present, being complicit in a genocide now in a way that people don't still want to talk about over a year in. That, for me, is really heartbreaking, and where I've really despaired a year in, is that we are now a year in. No one expected it to be a year. And a year in, with all the deaths, with now the expansion to Lebanon, the same tropes, the same talking points, and yet people can still blindly defend it, still justify it, or still look away, as you say, tune out for the basketball or the football.
They use the same exact narrative. Oh, but they're terrorists. What can Israel do? How can they defend themselves?
Just such bullshit. Are you going to change?
No.
What you're doing?
Remember when you asked me the first time we did a podcast, you tell me, what do you keep doing? It's like, if you're going to kill me, at least I'm allowed to scream. So I'm just screaming until I die. Or laughing until I die, maybe better.
Or both.
Yeah, or both. Yes.
You really are sad. It's the first time I've seen you smile.
No, I have to smile because I have to go on stage right now. No, but it's just like, I don't know, Mehdi. I don't know. Like, and even when I get an interview, I find myself saying the same thing. And then it's not entertaining, but like, it's not meant to be entertaining. And I find myself into this kind of like crossroads of war and entertainment and comedy and realism and fact checking. And it's
You said
it's a weird.
you said
place
the
for me.
comedy is about tension and relief for the crowd that listens
Yes.
to the gag. What about for you? Is it a relief for you?
Oh yes, of course, because when they laugh, that's paying for my therapy.
Not paying for your therapy. What about the actual on-stage therapy? Being there in the
therapy,
moment.
being there, listening to them laugh. I mean, this is why.
That's what you're going to do today.
Yes, of course.
After depressing the hell out of me,
Yes.
you're going to go make some
I'm
other
gonna
people
go let
laugh.
them yes, because this is how much I love you. You get to see the real me, and as I go on stage and I get ready and I crack my jokes, and hopefully I will hear the people laugh with my opening joke, and we go on through an hour or an hour and a half laughing. At least that is catharsis. That is catharsis. That is something that at least people get a little bit of a relief, even for a while. Maybe I'm not a surgeon anymore. Maybe it's temporary painkillers, temporary relief, but it's a relief at the end. And if that I can do that for the people, even for an hour, maybe I'm good with that.
We're Not Kidding is a Zeteo production. I'm your host, Mehdi Hasan, and today's co-host was Bassem Youssef. Our executive producer is Kieran Alvey. Our senior producer and editor is Frank Capello. Our music was composed by Andy Clausen. Our design is by Alicia Tetone. Our mix engineer is Valentino Rivera. And the title card animation is by Ehsan Mezghali.